The devil or him gives out riddles to solve in a certain amount of time, including fighting and saving things. The professor is taken hostage, and many of the riddles the girls solve include creating tears by creating a water cycle for rain, rushing to answer a payphone without flying, which would give them 3 minutes to split up and find the fastest way from each of them, stopping 2 trains from colliding, and many more. The second to hardest riddles for them was to decide which one's their teacher, which was easy to Blossom to figure out, and even taking the SAT test, which Bubbles ended up getting the answers right by chance. Then the main hardest riddle comes with the girls fighting a monster without using their superpowers. At the end, the girls meet with the professor at the diner where he had to pay because the girls didn't end up finishing on time. It was really interesting seeing how the girls can and can't use their superpowers, despite the episode being a bit lackluster. The episode is going on the top of the list. The Powerpuff Girls are visited by a Hollywood director about a possible movie being filmed about them in their own town. As they get ready to film the movie, the professor feels really let down because of what's going on behind the scenes, especially when the director tells lies and other things about him and the girls on TV and the way he is treating the girls, and the professor was not having it, and rightfully so as a concerned parent. Once the professor finds the director's trailer, he overhears the conversation and finds out that the director is a fraud and he is scamming the city of Townsville. This gives the professor an idea to dress up as a woman, considering they were only looking for a woman in the movie. This is when the professor calls out the director for being a fraud and having no film in the camera to film the movie. After it was revealed that there is no script or anything that would make a movie possible, the director kidnaps the mayor and the girls and the professor go on a wild goose chase. This just proves once again that the professor is a great father who cares about his kids and knows what's best for them. A great episode to complement the release of the actual Powerpuff Girls movie, going at the top of the list. This all starts at recess, where Bubbles draws chalk on the ground, but it is considered so much of a distraction that Buttercup gets upset and destroys Bubbles' chalk, causing her to go cry in a corner. This is when all the animals give her chalk, and the devil or him, as a butterfly, gives her an opportunity to draw out her feelings, causing her to make chalk monsters. Now it is up to Bubbles to fix the chalk monsters, place them back onto the ground where they belong to save her sisters, and this happens when she draws the devil back into a butterfly and fixes the drawings. Then he retreats and all is forgiven. This episode shows Bubbles' true aspirations, as one of her hobbies is being an artist, despite her taking advantage of, going above him diddle riddle. This all starts on career day at school, where the parents introduce and explain what careers they have for the whole day. This is when Professor Utonium comes up and introduces the class to a time portal, and that's when Mojo Jojo sneaks in to go back in time. But not before he pretends to be another student and asks questions about the portal before he reveals himself. Now the girls have to do their best to find Mojo Jojo and bring him back to the present time. This is when Mojo Jojo finds the professor as a kid and takes him after a science experiment gone wrong and takes him to an active volcano to try to prevent the girls from being born. However, the girls end up stopping Mojo Jojo from making that plan happen and saving his life. Then the professor then has a vision of the girls, and in the present he is so happy they exist and he has created them. Mojo Jojo ended up failing, but this was indeed one of Mojo Jojo's attempts to change time and undo the creation of the girls. Going under Film Flam. The Powerpuff Girls are watching TV when a Meet the Superheroes comes together for an important super summit. They come together as the Association of World Supermen. The superheroes come from all over the world, such as England, Japan, the Caribbean, Mexico, and China. This is when the girls are encouraged by their father, the professor, about all the great things they did, and that gets the girls to travel to the summit to meet Major Glory and all the rest of the superheroes they look up to. When the girls meet the superheroes, they get challenged to do many feats, and the girls beat them at about everything, from lifting to super speed and stopping meteors. This is when the girls talk with Major Glory about age, and the girls tell him their dad does all the work and he is a single parent, and rightfully so because the professor created the girls. This is when they get rejected and are forced to go home. That's when the girls find out about the supervillain kicking the crap out of the superheroes, and they are all overpowered, causing the girls to go back and show them that they are not worthless because of their age. This is when Major Glory and others apologize, and Buttercup gives them the benefit of the doubt by being forgiving and not being mean back, and I do agree with that quote from her.
Oh, please! After everything you put us through, you think, now girls, just because they were mean and insensitive doesn't mean we shouldn't turn the other cheek.
This by far is the best episode of the season. and it shows the girls with their real feats and how they could be great superheroes in the show as well as the others in the same episode. Some of which are also the Justice Friends from Dexter's Lab. Going at the top of the list. Townsville is a hustling, bustling city as usual, especially since lots of crazy things happen there on a daily basis. That is until an unusual storm comes to town, and it's more than a typical rainstorm. The rain is so bad that everything shrinks when water comes in contact. Professor Utonium looks at the droplet through a microscope, and turns out a tiny nanobot inside the raindrop chomps down certain things when it lands. After a failed attempt at attacking the nanobots themselves, the professor uses a machine to shrink the girls into size so they can fight the boss easier. But not before the professor takes the tiny girls to town themselves. With their tiny size, fighting tiny bots is as easy as pie. As the professor helps direct traffic, the girls do everything they can to defeat the nanobots and make way for the cloud to get rid of the rainstorm that causes disaster. This is when the nanobots come together to form a megabot, becoming even more powerful. The megabot ends up becoming too powerful for the girls to stop until the professor steps on it and saves the day at the end, concluding the disaster. This was a great episode and maybe the easiest battle the girls ever did in the whole series, even when they are tiny. This was also the first episode of the new art style for the show. Going above, Get Back JoJo. This episode starts in the town's forest on a nice spring day. It's a peaceful time for people to come and enjoy nature and other animals. This is when a squirrel is chasing after its acorn to avoid a hawk trying to steal it. This is when the squirrel gets caught by the hawk, and Bubbles rescues the squirrel from danger. The girls take the squirrel home, and Bubbles is sad because the squirrel is sick. This is when Bubbles gives the squirrel drops of chemical X, and later on the next day, the girls get stuck on flypaper after they arrive at Mojo Jojo's home. This is when the squirrel gets into action and saves the girls from getting themselves killed by an explosion. After saving the girls, the squirrel is honored by them to be the honorary Powerpuff member, which is Powerpuff Bullet. Bullet the squirrel helps out with many tasks that the girls usually do on a regular basis. After a long day of helping the girls, Bullet hears a disturbance in the forest. It turns out the hawk is bothering the forest creatures. A fight goes off, but with the new superpowers, the hawk is no match even when Bullet gets put down many times and her acorn attack helps her win. However, Bullet gets homesick and decides to stay in the forest and says goodbye to the girls. The episode ends with scenes from the forest, reenacting a normal episode with Bullet doing her duties like the other girls usually do. This episode is really cool because it was awesome. The girls had a pet that could help them fight crime and be a cool sidekick. Going under members only. Random places just explode out of nowhere. This turns out to be done by an alien spaceship. The girls get overpowered by the ray from the spaceship, so then they try a bomb, which the spaceship ends up trying back on them. After that, the girls try to clone themselves, which the spaceship also does right back. Things seem hopeless until the girls do the unthinkable. They have to turn to Mojo Jojo, one of the main villains, for help. Reluctantly, Mojo Jojo ends up agreeing to the Powerpuff Girls' terms as the aliens end up destroying the town. This is when Mojo Jojo teaches the girls the main steps on being evil to get back at the aliens and to destroy the spaceship. To do this, he gets the girls to steal a stinky piece of cheese as a mammoth is thawed out. That's where the cheese comes in handy to be used on the mammoth. The stench would trigger an army of rats to go after the mammoth and sidetrack the spaceship. Once that happens, the aliens then cause a malfunction shipping, and some kids get a cartridge that would have a missile launched and aim for the volcano. This would get the spaceship down, only to stand as a tall robot, and it would destroy the whole city to the anger of Mojo Jojo because this was something he wanted to do. A tornado forms, causing a major disaster, and it seems like all is lost. The giant robot ends up destroying everything else until Mojo Jojo fights back against the robot, causing it to fall down. This is when he realized he saved the town and made the aliens go away. This episode is great because it proves that Mojo Jojo can still be evil while being good by still saving his own reputation and even working with his enemies. Going above, Nano of the North. This episode introduces the professor's college buddy and roommate Dick Hardley. He comes over to the professor's house, and this is when he discovers the professor's girls, and it gives him an idea to create other clones of the Powerpuff Girls. This is when he picks up the girls from school and tells them the idea he has to have other girls that are superheroes and has to have some chemical X. So then he takes it home to his lab to create copies of the girls and then introduces them to different cities. Funny thing is, the girls are not very lifelike. This is when the girls have to lie to their father about the clones being them. When Dick starts having a factory of Powerpuff clones being made. Then the girls malfunction and fall apart and they get hard to put together as Dick ends up getting more money from sales. After pitching the Powerpuff Girls Extreme with an infomercial, the girls watch it and end up meeting Dick to straighten things out with him. Dick ends up swallowing the chemical X and becomes a superpower monster when the professor visits and sees his buddy using the machine to suck the life of the Powerpuff Girls, and the professor's love for the girls makes the Powerpuff Girls Extreme clones turn against his buddy Dick to save the professor and the girls. This episode proves that greed can really make someone turn bad, especially when people have certain ideas. Going under, Get Back JoJo. The Powerpuff Girls wake up to a new neighbor moving in next door. This turns out to be a little girl named Robin who is around the same age as them. The girls take the new neighbor on a tour of the house and show her their room. After that, they spend a lot of time together doing many things, and this is so wholesome just watching these scenes in this episode. This is when the mayor has to give out a signal because the girls aren't able to answer their phone due to them being too busy hanging out with her. The girls get really busy fighting crime, and it's sad for Robin because she can't hang out with her new neighbors that often. A lot of times she has to spend alone since the girls never have any time off. When they're walking to school, they run into a spoiled rich girl, Princess Morebugs, offering them to be a Powerpuff Girl as her limo passes by. This is when she manipulates Robin to be her friend just because she is rich. The princess decides to have Robin get back at the girls by going into a convenience store and shoplifting when she ties up Robin, and being a fake friend by trying to make Robin look bad. This is when the girls apologize to Robin, and the professor tells the mayor that the girls are busy when he wants his pickles open. This episode is very wholesome but has a big twist. Going under, members only.